When Epic started out, it was just Will and I don't think we were even called Epic yet. We worked on one song, Arduous Task, for a couple of months, and at that point I was playing drums and keyboard, and he was vocal and guitar, and it was all his material, which was really cool. And I was trying to get back into drumming. It had been over a year or more since I'd played, so we would jam at his house, and for a couple of months worked on something, put it together, and then played the talent show at the end of my senior year, which I think was awesome, and I think a couple other people really thought so, but the audience looked kind of stunned, like they didn't know what they were hearing, what was going on. Who was this man in sunglasses, and why was the drummer trying to play keyboards? Why couldn't they get other band members? So that was really just a one-off show, and it was awesome, but it kind of ended there. So when Will contacted me later in the year and wanted to start another band, it made perfect sense. Will and I had been playing in bands and jamming together for many years at that point, so it was just kind of logical that we would resume playing together, which was cool. But we needed to assemble an all-star cast if we were going to play, some of the stuff he had, some of the stuff I had. And I think that we got the best guys you could get in town. We got Chief, we got Ben on the drums, we got Paul Tiller playing those keys, which I think he was just awesome. I think he was probably drastically underused. We probably could have had even more awesome keyboard parts if we weren't so guitar heavy. And then we had Joel playing on our bass, and it was awesome. We were already friends, and we all kind of played around with each other in other bands. I think some of those guys had played in Shades of Creation, and Will and I had played in Fathom. And I'd known Ben since I was in second grade, since I first moved to Tucson, so I've known him longer than probably anybody else, which is kind of cool. So I don't remember the first practice, but something must have happened, right? Because within a couple of weeks we had a few songs set, played our first show, started to develop the band, and just went from there. So after we played our first gig at the arcade, we only had a couple of songs, and we decided to start putting some stuff together, trying to get a couple more songs. And a couple months later, I had our first show in Phoenix at the Mason Jar, which was huge. We were already playing in Phoenix, which was kind of the only other place to play outside of Tucson. And that was cool. I think after we played that show, though, we realized we needed just a little bit heavier material. And the bands we were opening for and playing with were quite a bit heavier. So we went back and we said, what's the heaviest thing we can write? And I don't even know how the title came about, but Cancer was our heaviest, I think, just brutal song that we had put together at that point. And I had put together some riffs and about the heaviest stuff I could come up with, and kind of ran out of steam in the middle. And then Will, like a champ, just goes to this tempo change, starts chugging away, have the drums come in, and then the end of the song was just brutal. It was just brutal and epic. We needed that song, and that kind of became our go-to for a good set lift or a good way to start the set. And I believe we even played that at the CDO talent show a couple months later, and put that on our demo with Unrequired and Roses in the Rain. I had written God Bless America on September 11th and on 2001, just inspired to write a brutal metal song on that day. And so that was always our show closer. And over time, we added that into a triad of Metal Glory, which featured Severed Space, Bridge to Nowhere, and then God Bless America as our finale song, with a little Bach piece at the end that I was never able to finish, so we just made it into a metal riff, which was pretty cool. That was always probably my favorite part of the show, was when me and Ben just took off on that part, and then the band comes in. It's just brutal. It's so sick. So when we got in, I almost couldn't believe it, because there we were on the list of bands and we were actually playing Dorado Stock. It was awesome. I think it went well. Again, I think there's some people that really dig it, really love it. A few people who have no idea what they're listening to.
Oh yeah, and it took Kyle about 5 years to play Dorado Stock.
So, had a few songs. I played several shows throughout the spring. We're playing about a show or two a month at this point. And we got to the middle of the summer. Things were going good, and just for fun one day, we had Jorge over to play and jam with the band a little bit. And I think it was, unanimous. I think when Jorge came over, I think we unanimously felt there was an awesome chemistry. And some of the stuff that he was adding in the songs and his just passion was just awesome. And even though we were happy with Joel and how things were going, we couldn't deny that playing with Jorge was just awesome. And that was probably the toughest time in the band, was making that transition. And I certainly didn't know the best way to do it, but that was a tough time. It was a tough time because Joel was like a part of our family by then. And it felt hard to lose a part of your family, in the Epic family anyways. So that was a tough time. So after we got Jorge in the band, we got a lot more serious about playing and about building our set lists, trying to get into larger venues and festivals, and we needed a manager because we were not managing ourselves. And we found the best one you can get, and Miss Sarah Lambeth. And she really set us up for success, got us hooked up with some better shows, actually playing in clubs, not just arcades and talent shows and stuff. And that was really cool to be feeling like we were working towards something. And so we had to put together press kits, we had t-shirts, which were extremely limited, CDs that I did some very crude, basic artwork, I think in paint on my Dell. But it worked, you know, we had something to present and looked like we were a real band, the real deal. So we had to go to Phoenix and play at Minder Binders and prove that we were, you know, a band and that we were good. And if we played well enough and to see how we were received, they'd invite us back for the Dwell in Darkness Festival, which is probably the coolest thing you could play as a metal band in southern Arizona. So it went well. Did our mini tour of the Southwest, which was originally 3 dates and one of them was canceled. So it was knocked down to 2. And after that tour, we were exhausted, I'll tell you. On the mini tour of the Southwest, we drove to Phoenix, got a hotel, all crashed in one hotel room. Even brought my new dog, who was only a few months old, I believe, and played the show, which was awesome, outdoor stage in Phoenix at Minder Binders. Show was great, came back, and we threw down. Had a little party at the hotel. It's our first time on the road and on our first tour. So, you know, we did what you would do on tour. And when we pulled back into Tucson the next day for our second show and last show of the tour, we were like whipped, like exhausted. So playing a Sunday night metal show too, looking back, was probably not the best idea. And I don't remember how many people were there, but we still brought the rock and we made it fun. You could tell we were all exhausted and probably hungover. But that was exciting to play a couple of places like that in a 2-day span, making a full weekend out of it. And almost more fun than the shows was just the adventure all of us had getting there and back. So we got into Dwell in Darkness. We got our names put on a t-shirt with all the other bands, which was so cool. Got to play in the stage inside. There's an outdoor and an inside stage. So we got to play in there, and that was pretty badass. Playing with metal bands we'd actually heard of for the first time, which was really cool. And felt like we'd come a long ways, especially in that year from when we started, or less than a year, to then. You know, we had a lot more material. The level of technicality in everything we were doing, these long songs and multiple solos or dueling parts or whatever it would come a long ways, and it was really exciting. And so the momentum took us into the end of the year, where we played a club called the Vaudeville in downtown Tucson. And that was really cool, a place we had never played. And I, for one, think that was one of our better shows, partly because I think we played well. Just a band in the corner of the bar, just playing our music. Nobody was there to see us, nobody knew who we were. And the crowd got into it at times, and it was like the place was starting to fill up as we were playing. People weren't leaving or booing, people were getting into it. This was a completely new crowd, and you know, at that time too, we had really built up our material in our songs. I think we were rocking at a good rate. And that was, I think, December of 2003. We played probably 15, 20 shows at that point, and it was going great. So in the spring of 2004, I made a big decision that I was going to move to Nashville and, you know, pursue other careers and get into a town full of music and try to take my chances there. So I told the guys I'd be moving in June, and we hadn't played or set up any shows in the spring. So really our last show was at Sarah's house, which was fitting. Last show at the band manager's backyard, and it was bittersweet, you know, to play with those guys knowing it was our last time. I think we rocked our asses off, and I hope that meant something good to Sarah too, because she'd worked really hard for us, and after a year and a half it was already kind of coming to a close. But it had been an epic run, I can say that. I think everybody involved had a good time, and you know, we still talk about it in such a way that it was epic.
What does the Bermuda Triangle and a blonde have in common?
They both swallow semen!
I just want to say, CEO was a very strange experience. I don't know about you. Had a good time, though. Party school, you know? Does anyone want to hear a blonde joke? I didn't think so.
Let's do it! We are a band!
So, if you guys know anybody that can sign us, give them a call. Or